Baruchim Abba and welcome everyone. Welcome to a special edition of All Parsha, the Baal Haturim, on Parshas Seitzei. Today I want to do something a little different. I want to focus really on primarily one Baal Haturim, but we'll speak out three. The Parshas Seitzei begins with the subject of the Ben Sorer Umoira. First it talks about the allowance of marrying the Fas Toyar, and then if one has two wives, one that they love, one that they hate, and then the episode of the Ben Sorer Umoira, the wayward son. And there's a machloikis in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. Did this scenario ever play out? Was there ever a Ben Sorer Umoira? There are opinions in the Gemara on Daf Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph that a Ben Sorer Umoira's parents have to look the same, have the same voice and the same appearance, and therefore it's an impossibility. And the only reason the Torah wrote it is drosh v'kibel schar, only so that we learn about it and receive reward. And on the other hand, Rabbi Yoina's son, and some say Rabbi Yochanan, says that he saw a Ben Sorer Umoira and he sat on the grave of one. Interestingly, the Baal Haturim says the gematria of Soirer, which is 466, is Ze Avshalom ben David. This is Avshalom ben David. That Avshalom ben David was in fact a Ben Sorer Umoira, which is a reference to the Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Zayin, that the Gemara says astonishingly that David HaMelech wanted to worship idols. That's right, David HaMelech wanted to worship idols, and there are various opinions what that means. The Aruch LaNer says he was going to do it b'amaras ayin. The Parsha says it meant he wanted to leave Eretz Yisrael. But be it as it may, the reason David HaMelech wanted to worship idols is because his son was chasing after him to kill him, and he felt it would be a great chil Hashem if his son were to kill him, as that for a tzaddik like him to die in the hands of his son. And Hushai Ha'arki said to David HaMelech, "Why are you so bothered that you're being hounded by your son? You married a Yifas Toyar, so Avshalom is a Ben Sorer Umoira." So the Gemara seems to describe Avshalom as a Ben Sorer Umoira. However, interestingly, Rabbeinu Bechaye on the Parsha seems to say Avshalom was not really a Ben Sorer Umoira. And that is, the Rabbeinu Bechaye, in the discussion of whether in fact a Ben Sorer Umoira ever existed, he seems to be going like the opinion that a Ben Sorer Umoira did not actually exist. And that which the Gemara says Rabbi Yoina's son, actually the Gersa Rabbeinu Bechaye is Rabbi Yochanan, that which Rabbi Yochanan said that he saw and he sat on the grave of Ben Sorer Umoira, he says maybe it wasn't a real Ben Sorer Umoira, but somebody like Avshalom. So you see from the Ben Ish Chai that Avshalom was not a full-fledged certified Ben Sorer Umoira. Okay, now I want to come to the main offering of today, and that is an amazing lifelong dilemma of the Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer, in Masechta Avodah Zarah Daf Samach Gimel Amud Beis, he writes, he was Yagea Harbe, he toiled greatly, and he never found a source for the following idea. Chazal tell us, Gershen is Gayer Kekatan Shnei Ladami, that when a Gentile converts, he's like a newborn child, and not only that, but biblically he could live with his mother, his sister, or his daughter, as they are not related. Even if they would both convert, the Gentile would be allowed to live with the relative as they are not legally, halachically related. And the Chassam Sofer says his whole life he searched and he investigated what is the makar of such a halacha. Where would Chazal get it from? Ger shenes gayer kikatan shenoilad dami, that if a Gentile converts, they're like a newborn child. The way the Meshech Chachma, Parshas Va'aschanan, says over the question of the Chassam Sofer, he says the Chassam Sofer said, Niskashe kol yamav, he was bothered his whole life. From where did Chazal get this halacha from? And the Meshech Chachma says as follows. He says, in all probability, before the Torah was given, many Jews were married to relatives. For example, we know Amram, who was the Gadol Hadar, was married to his aunt. And yet, we know that after the Torah was given, Arayos became Asur. And when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, Hashem said to Klal Yisrael, Shuvu lachem lo'y halechem. Go back to your tents, which means go back to your wives. How could everyone in Klal Yisrael go back to their wives? Many of them were married to relatives. It must be because after the Torah was given, it was like a conversion. And from here we see Ger Shenes Gayer Kekatan Shenol Adami. This, says the Meshech Chachma, would be a source for this great principle, Ger Shenes Gayer, and would be an answer to the lifelong dilemma of the Chasam Sofer. Rav Moshe Sternbuch, in the Mayadim Uzmanim, Chelik Zayin Siman Reish Lamed Ches, asks on the Meshech Chachma that this cannot be correct, because the Das Sekenimi Balei HaTosfos in Parshas Behaloischa brings, who's Eldad and Medad? Eldad and Medad were the half-brothers of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because after the Torah was given, Amram had to separate from his wife, Yocheved, and he married a different wife, and that produced Eldad and Medad. So you can't say like the Meshech Chachma that the source of Ger Shenes Gayer Kekatan Shenol Adami was the fact that the Jews who were married to relatives went back to their wives, because in fact the Jews who were married to relatives were not able to go back to their wives. And therefore we sort of return to the question of the Chasam Sofer, from where do Chazal derive the rule, Ger Shenes Gayer Kekatan Shenol Adami? So you say, where are you going with this? This is a shir on the Baal Haturim. Well, bear with me. Perek Chavhei Pasuk Chav Zayin. Perek Chavhei Pasuk, Yud Zayin. Lo Isate Mishpat Ger Yasaim. Do not pervert the justice of a convert, an orphan. And the Baal Haturim says it should say, don't pervert the justice of a ger, a convert, v'yasaim, and or a orphan. Why does it say ger yasaim, a convert, an orphan? Loimer lecha, it's to tell you every ger is a yasaim, every convert is considered an orphan. Why? It's a proof, ger shenes gayer kekatan shenol adami. A ger that converts is like a newborn child. Now, Rav Sternbuch questions this, because even though we say ger shenes gayer kekatan shenol adami, that only allows a convert to marry a relative, but that they should have the halachic status of a orphan, that's not the case. We don't say a ger has the halachic status of a yasaim, but nevertheless, the Baal Haturim seems to indicate that the source of Ger Shenes Gayer Kekatan Shenol Adami very well may be from this pasuk in Seitzei, the way the Baal Haturim reads it, Lo Isate Mishpat Ger Yasaim. Every ger is a yasaim. Now it would be hard to say that this would be the source of this halachic principle. Maybe you could say it's a remez, it's a hint to it, but that this should be the source of it. So I always like to suggest as follows. There's a Gemara in Yevamos Mem Ches Amud Beis on the bottom of the page. The Gemara asks, why do gerim often have very difficult lives, and they're afflicted, and they have hardship? So the Gemara says various possibilities. One of them is because they did not observe the Sheva Mitzvahs when they were Gentiles. To which Rabbi Yossi says, well, so what? Ger Shenes Gayer Kekatan Shenol Adami, they're not accountable for what they violated when they were Gentiles. And then the Gemara brings other opinions. They don't serve Hashem out of love. And then the Gemara finally brings the opinion of Rebbe Lazar, of Achirim, that because they delayed coming, Tachas Kanfei Hashchina. And then the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Avohu v'Temer Rabbi Chanina, what does the pasuk in Rus mean? Yishalem Hashem pa'alech Usihi maskortech shlema me'im Hashem l'kei Yisrael, that God should pay you for your deeds and give you recompense for your good actions. Asher bas, that you came. In other words, Boaz is telling Rus, God should repay you for converting. What is this line in the Gemara doing? The way Rashi learns is it's substantiating that which the Achirim said. Achirim said that Gerim have a hard life because they delayed coming Tachas Kanfei Hashchina. Well, how do we know that they're supposed to hurry to come Tachas Kanfei Hashchina? So Rashi learns that this is derived from Boaz. Boaz tells Rus, you should be rewarded because you hasten to come Tachas Kanfei Hashchina. But the Ritva brings from his Rebbe that no, Rabbi Avohu is not bringing a support to the Acherim, he's bringing a support to Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi argued that Gerim are not punished because they did not fulfill the Sheva Mitzvahs, because Ger shenis Gayer kekatan shenor ladami. Now Rabbi Avohu is bringing a proof, a source in the Pasuk, that Ger shenis Gayer kekatan shenor ladami. What's the source? That Boaz told Rus, Asher Bas, that you came. Meaning you came to the Jewish people, you came to the world today. Asher Bas, the verse says, the Pasuk says, that you came to the world today. Now, Rus wasn't born that day, Rus was over 100 years old. Why does the Pasuk say that she came into the world that day? Because in fact, halachically, Ger shenis Gayer kekatan shenor ladami, and the day she converted is reckoned as if that's the day that she came into the world. So we have a number of possibilities to answer the Chassam Sofer's question, what is the source? Ger shenis Gayer kekatan shenor ladami, the Meshech Chochmah suggests, is from the fact that after Kabbalas HaTorah, Hashem told Klal Yisrael, Shuvu lachem la'oy alechem, and the Mayadim Uzmanim points to the Baal Haturim in this week's Parsha, Loisatem mishpat ger yasaim, that every ger in a dimension is considered a yasaim. And we suggested that perhaps in the Gemara in Yevamos Mem Chesam and Beis, the fact that Rus is called Asher Bas, that she came to the world today, that indicates Ger shenis Gayer kekatan shenor ladami. Well, let's end on a very positive note. We have the mitzvah of Ki Yikarei Kan Sipar Lefanecha Baderech. We have the mitzvah of Ki Yikarei Kan Sipar. And the Pasuk says that as a reward for fulfilling this mitzvah, you will be Zoicha to long life. V'harachta Yamim. The Pasuk says, Laman Yitav Lach V'harachta Yamim. And we know the Harachta Yamim refers to Olam Haba. Says the Baal Haturim, the Harachta Yamim is Gematria Ba'olam Shekulai Arach, in the world that is completely long. So that is what we all hope for. Harachaman, Hu Yizakenu, Limai Samashiach, U'Lachaye Ha'olam Haba, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu grant us continued Zuchusim to plumb the depths and the secrets of His Torah. Wishing everyone a wonderful rest of the week and upcoming Shabbos Ki Seitzei Haba Aleinu L'Taiva.